That's exactly what I do, yeah.
But Verizon didn't do any of that, did they?
Apparently not.
They just sucked all this information up like a Hoover deluxe.
Yeah.
They didn't even look at, that we know of, to see if these were members of Congress.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chamberlain, I believe 4 telephone companies received these subpoenas for the phone records, the metadata of 20 members of Congress. Is that your understanding?
That sounds right to me, yes.
Okay. I don't have time to talk about all of them. Let me just pick one. Verizon. About 90,000 employees, I think. $140 billion worth of revenue. Does Verizon hire dummies to work in its legal department?
I should think not. They've probably got a good reservoir of lawyers to pick from.
Okay. I suppose you were one of the lawyers at Verizon, and you don't strike me as a dummy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And you got a subpoena from Jack Smith with an NDO, non-disclosure order, signed by Judge Boasberg. Do you think a reasonably competent lawyer at Verizon would know who Jack Smith was?
Yes, I think so.
Do you think a reasonably competent lawyer at Verizon would know who Judge Boasberg was or would inquire about him?
Yeah, I think you could pretty quickly Google him, and if you were concerned that maybe he wasn't actually a federal district judge, I think it's pretty obvious that you'd be able to figure out what's going on.
I mean, it was pretty widely known that President Biden instructed the Attorney General to sue President Trump, and that he hired Jack Smith, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, that was
Yes.
on the front page of every paper. If you were an attorney at Verizon and you got a subpoena like this, wouldn't you say, maybe I need to check and see who Mr. Smith is subpoenaing here?
Yeah, and especially once I found out it was a representative, it would immediately raise that flag of, like, maybe there's a legal exception here that doesn't apply in other cases.
Do we know if the employee who received this subpoena at Verizon even sought a legal opinion from an attorney at Verizon?
I do not know.
Well, let's just assume for a second that Verizon, sophisticated company that it is not so incompetent that they wouldn't have had a lawyer look at this. Lawyer looks at it and says, Jack Smith. Lawyer looks at it and says, NDO signed by Judge Boasberg. Lawyer looks at the names, as a reasonably competent lawyer would. Says, they're members of Congress. If that was you, what would you do?
Well, I'd make a few phone calls. I'd do legal research to confirm that, complying with this order was obviously lawful, and I might, gently try and push back on the subpoena to try and understand, what was going on.
In fact, you would probably discover the law, being the very competent lawyer that you are, that said no judicial order can bar Verizon from picking up the phone and calling the member of Congress, wouldn't you?
That's right.
You'd probably find that statute.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did find that statute, in order to protect Verizon, as you're their lawyer, wouldn't you have filed a motion to quash?
That's exactly what I do, yeah.
But Verizon didn't do any of that, did they?
Apparently not.
They just sucked all this information up like a Hoover deluxe.
Yeah.
They didn't even look at, that we know of, to see if these were members of Congress.
Yes, that's right.
What kind of liability does Verizon have here?
That's a good question. I need to read the statute more clearly to see what what the actual penalties are. But my guess is there would be some pretty reasonable civil penalties for having done so.
What kind of remedies, if any, are there for the fact that Judge Boasberg said that he had reasonable grounds to believe that these members of Congress would destroy evidence, and that he made that conclusion without holding a hearing?
I mean, I think the only remedy to that is political and impeachment. I don't think there's a unique. You can't sue Judge Boasberg for damages for his judicial decision making. So the only remedy is political.
Would you consider it to be grossly incompetent if Judge Boasberg had not even inquired who these people were and whether they were members of Congress?
Oh, yes, extremely incompetent.
Okay. That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Senator